Okay, another day, another driving the car, Sony Action Cam vlog. Now, I have to admit, when I bought this camera, it wasn't without some hesitation. I don't actually like the company Sony, and there's a few reasons why, but the reasons themselves aren't the real thing. I mean, the important issue is I don't like Sony, but when it came to this action cam, I was very impressed with it. And I knew, comparing it to a few different ones, it was the one that I wanted. Now, I'm not going out and saying that this is definitely the best action cam that's ever existed. It's pretty good, pretty useful. It works, which is always a bonus. But you know, there's a huge market these days, and lots of different products coming up all the time. So I did end up buying it, even though I don't really like the idea that I'm supporting Sony. But I thought, well, it seems like a pretty decent product, and you know, I can support them making this product, and if I support them with things that I think they're doing right, you know, it's kind of encouragement, right? Well, drop in the ocean, perhaps. But nonetheless, that's what I've decided to do. This week's going to be pretty busy. We're pushing for the Campervan. We've asked, you know, said, oh, we're so excited. We've asked them, if possible, if they can have it ready by this weekend. And they said they'll try. Possibly, if it's not ready by this weekend, then it'll be the weekend after that we pick it up. And when we pick it up, we're going straight on a trip. We're going to take the train to pick up the campervan, and then we're going to take the campervan on an onsen trip somewhere. Not exactly sure where, but that's the coming plan. Anyway. So, apart from that, let's see, what else is news? Warmachine. I'm a big fan of Warmachine and Hordes. There we go. Thank you. Now, once upon a time, I played both Warhammer Fantasy and Warhammer 40k. Way back when, I think it would have been 2nd edition 40k, when we first got into 40k, my brothers and I. And I played on and off, I'd say, until around 5th edition, which is the last edition of 40k that I ever played a game for. Warhammer Fantasy I didn't play after high school at all. So these are all, you know, miniature fighting games. And I remember the games, it's fun and it's nice to have a whole army and battle it out and everything. But I don't think I could ever go back to Warhammer 40k or Warhammer Fantasy. I think from this point on, Warmachine and games like that are going to be the way to go. I've also had a look at another one called Infinity. Well, I've had a look at a few. There's one called Malifaux. Malifaux has really nice miniatures, but instead of using dice, it uses a deck of cards kind of mechanic, and it's a little thing, it's a picky thing, but I actually like the dice. You know, there's something about rolling the dice that for me is part of the miniature gaming experience. So even though I really like the Malifaux miniatures, I don't think I'll be picking that one up. Infinity is very small, skirmish style. It's easy enough. I can pick up a whole Infinity, I wouldn't call it an army, but a force, you know, enough that I can play regular games pretty cheaply. For now, though, it's Warmachine. I got recently. I was lucky enough to find somebody who was leaving the country And as part of leaving the country, they were leaving behind a huge Legion army and a huge Cygna army. That's one Hordes and one Warmachine army. And I managed to pick up quite a lot of Cygna at a very, very reasonable price. Mostly assembled, mostly painted as well. Although for me, being painted when I buy them is not really a plus. I like painting them, and I want them to fit in with the paint scheme that I already have for my other models. So they are all being slowly, the ones that weren't assembled, the ones that were unpainted, those have been my top priority, get them ready. And after that I'm going through, especially the Warjacks, the big models, I like painting them. I'm going through and repainting them to fit in with my scheme. It's not that the other person was particularly bad at painting or anything, it's just he had much darker, muddier colors, where mine are a bit more brighter. Yeah, I'd say they're definitely brighter and a bit more, I put battle damage on them and that sort of thing. So slowly I'm amassing this huge Cygna force. So I need some opponents with big armies as well. And at the moment, at the regular game days, there's a Circle player, Circle Ouroboros, or Circle of Ouroboros. You can call it whatever you want. I'm just going to call it Circle. So he's kind of my main opponent at the moment. But he doesn't have a very large force yet. It's not very assembled either. So, you know, there's that. I'm keen for more games. There's a store nearby, or near-ish, that runs steamroller events. But they tend to run them, they tend to do all their gaming and everything from 6 in the afternoon until 10. It opens, it's a store that opens late. I think the guy running the store actually has another job, but runs this this hobby game store when he can on his during his free time. And no complaints there. I'm very glad he does. But it does make it a little bit inconvenient for me to get there and play very often. So I would like to play more. And with respect to that, I've been looking at options to play online. And the main one that people use at the moment is Vassal, which is very reasonable, but a little bit less intuitive option. It's free. It has a lot of the models put into it, not all of them. You have to bring your own rules, of course. But it's it's very fiddly trying to actually get it going. And for example, if I ever had to try to explain how to use it to my older brother, well, you know, he has a habit of single-mindedly managing to fail at any sort of computer activities. He's not tech safe, I suppose would be the polite way to say it. Sorry, Doug, it's true. So Vassal is out there, and it is an option, especially for people who've already used it in the past, either to play other games or to play Warmachine. On the other hand, there's Warmachine Tactics that you can find on Steam, but that's not a very... it's not very polished. It's not a direct translation from the board game to the computer game. You know, the rules vary a bit. And I don't know, I thought it was going to be fantastic, but it's really... I think they need to hire at least one person who knows how to optimize code to make it run much better. I think that's the key point with that. It's not very well optimized at the moment. And there's a lot you can do with that, decoupling code and so on, but licensed games don't always get the best treatment. Okay, so those are the two big options for online play. And I've been just trying to put together in my own time what is basically just a board with dice and Warmachine pieces, limiting it to the pieces I actually have access to, that I can actually look at and do. So there's a few key mechanics that would be necessary before we can use it to play online. The multiplayer, actually making a lobby, meeting up and playing games online, is not the most difficult. I know a lot of people have trouble with networking, but it's not the most difficult thing out there, actually. But the key mechanics, I mean, you'd have to be able to measure various distances, you'd have to show statuses on models, have to roll dice fairly. You know, those little things all go in there, and once they're terrain as well is something that's a bit fuzzy. I was thinking about just everything is purely flat terrain, and in your mind you pretend it's a deep ocean or a high hill or something. There's a lot of advantages when you're playing miniatures of not using big lumpy terrain. I know big lumpy terrain is beautiful, but trying to put a model, especially a big one, on the side of a hill, everybody's had to do that in the past and it just doesn't work. So flat hills, oh my goodness. They might not look as good, but boy do they work better for the game. Okay, so anyway, getting past all of those, once those mechanics are in there, it'll be basically an empty board with pieces and dice that would let us play the game, you know, keeping in mind that the rules would be enforced entirely by us on our end. Well, anyway, time to finish up. Maybe I'll add more to this later, but for now, that's it.